Okay, here we go with noses. Noses, I find, having done this project numerous times, are something you folks struggle with. They are a little tricky. They're not as easy as eyes in the sense that eyes have circles and other circles and lots of lines. And with noses, we're trying to eliminate lines. It's just about subtle changes in value and adjusting the pressure of your pencil to make things look lighter and darker. They're kind of frustrating. But the good news is you just have to draw one nose at the end of the day. I'm going to ask you to draw 5 so you can practice, but your self-portrait's going to need one nose. So we'll learn how to draw your nose. Let's just quickly talk about the parts of the nose. So we're all on the same page. Let's zoom in here. You have the bridge of the nose. I'm sure you're familiar with that term, you know, the big bridge part. The tip or ball tip, some call it the apex, is the part that comes out, and that's the, very end of your nose. The wings are to the sides. You might call them the nostrils, but really those are up inside. The nostrils are where you're breathing out of. But the wings are these parts here you can press on. When you're holding your nose and you're going underwater, you grab your wings. There's the septum, which is under here. It's that sort of bottom of the bridge part. Some people have a deviated septum up inside their nose where air can travel through. They don't have it labeled here, but let's tackle it now. There's this part under the nose. Most of us have. Some, it's more pronounced than others. But this little divot that you may or may not have is called the philtrum. I'll just spell it out here. Philtrum. I'm not going to quiz you on it. I guess it's a good Jeopardy question. But the philtrum, in case you're ever wondering, that's that little divot there. Now you know. All right, what I don't want you to do is look at one of these noses and go, eeny, meeny, miny, I guess that's my nose. I'll draw that nose, that'll be mine. That's not the point. These are just to show you some different types of noses and that there are an endless amount of different types. What we're going to do is use this method here. I call it the Mickey Mouse method. Just to show you why. Well, this kind of looks like Mickey now. All right, so we're going to use this circular method. But basically what it's showing here, zoom out a little bit, is that, with a little north or south head tilt, you can expose more or less nostrils. So if you want to see more nostrils, and you're looking up, then these wings or these circles will drop down a little bit in reference to the apex or the ball tip. If you move those nostrils up a little bit, then you have sort of a south head tilt, and you don't see as much nostril. But this is where it gets tough. I'm pretty sure you folks can draw some circles and lay out a framework, and maybe even do some shading, but to take it to this final stage where it looks three-dimensional and it pops off the face, that's where most of you struggle. So I'll try to spend a bit more time on that. There's a final page here with just some different angles and different ways to, both east and west and north-south head tilts. I highly encourage you to try one, not just head-on, but one with a three-quarter view where you might see more of one nostril and a little bit less of another nostril. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to learn, so it's going to do you no good to draw 5 of the same nose. Try the nose of the fellow or the lady across from you, or try a different gender or ethnicity. Try a baby's nose. Pulled one of these out the other day. I thought this was interesting. Just how, babies' noses are generally a little smaller, a little cuter. In fact, noses, like ears, are something that tend to grow over time. So when you're an old person, you're in your 80s, your ears are usually a little bigger, and your nose is usually a little bigger. That cartilage continues to grow. And like hair and fingernails, toenails, there's things on your body that just continue to grow. So, but when you're a little baby, your nose is about as small as it's going to get. Maybe it's from all that digging. It gets a little bigger. All right, let's move on. Noses, 101. Now, some people like to start with lines instead of just circles. They start with things like this. So follow me and we'll just draw a few of these. Oop, a little curve like that maybe. Let's try a different one here. And let's try one that goes like this. And what this is meant to represent is the base of your nose. And if you look at these examples here, you'll see I'm trying to sort of show this line here, that there's all different ways to make that line, and that's what makes you you. You know, some people have more of a pointy nose, some are more round. There's all different ways to do that. Boy, this one's really different. But if you'd like, you can start with a line and then put some wings on it, like this. Add some wings, and those wings go underneath so that you have nostrils. Or you can go this way. Let's make these more of a teardrop shape. Maybe this is a taller nose. Or you might have one that's more short and wide. And there's just an endless amount of different types of lines, starting lines and wings we could make. And that's generally how I approach looking at a nose, is I want to break it down into really three main parts: the bridge, the ball tip, and the wings. And a caricature artist would do the same thing. They're quickly going to sum up your nose, like what kind of nose shape is that? So what I mean is, and follow me here, we'll just try some different shapes. You might look at your nose and see that the bridge is just kind of a big tall oval sort of shape. Or maybe you see it more rectangular. Yours is more of a chiseled, manly, squared off nose. Maybe it's kind of a combination of the two. Something like this. Or maybe it's just very triangular. Maybe it's more wide and does something like this. And there's everything in between, but this is meant to represent the bridge of the nose. Of course, there's all different apexes or ball tips of the nose. So, you know, maybe yours is just perfectly circular when you look at it. Perhaps it's more kind of trapezoidal, does something like this. Maybe it looks like a guitar pick. It's more triangular. Or maybe it's just wide. And obviously you could mix these up and have different combinations with these different parts and mix and match. And those are just a few. There's endless varieties of noses, obviously. Same with the wings. You know, those wings might be tall and narrow like this, kind of a teardrop shape. Maybe they're kind of squared off, more angular. Perhaps they're just round. Or maybe they're just really wide. So some people like to start with the shapes and then put in this initial line that I made. So I'm going to go in here and try to make these look a bit more nose-like by adding a line so that I have a bit of nostril that creeps into the wings. And we really don't want to see all of those lines, so if you sort of you can go back in and erase some of those out, you know, you end up with sort of a decent nose shape. I mean, someone's nose. Someone's probably got a nose that looks like that. So again, we don't want to see all these lines. I'll bet there's a fella out there or a lady that's got a nose about that shape. So this is just another method. I'm trying to teach you different methods because I'm going to show you another method in a minute, and none of these are right or wrong. There's no formula that every artist uses. Some attack it by starting with the line and then adding wings. Some draw shapes. Heck, once you get the hang of this, you can just start shading and just go for it. It becomes intuitive, like riding a bike or something. Let's try one of these Mickey Mouse type. We'll do something like this and just let's make one good big nose here. I'll start with kind of a basic shape for nose of the bridge. put a circle here for the ball tip. Of course, that could be more of an oval that's taller, wider. Add a couple wings over here. And so what I've set up is just what I call a system, something that a framework that I can follow. So I would encourage you to try, moving the wings up and down, try different shapes, try different types of noses. It really does no good to draw the same nose over and over and over. The next thing I want you to do is just actually follow me here and draw yourself a little sphere. I mean, it looks like a circle right now, but if you had a light source shining down on this, then you would know that one side should be lit up a bit more and one side would be shaded. Now it looks more like a sphere instead of a circle. Probably be a little bit of a cast shadow coming off of this as well. I ask you to write this down because I want you to think about this when you're shading your nose. Think about the light, because it's the light that really models the form that is the nose. So here's what I mean. I'm going to take my pencil, and hopefully you've got a wood pencil, it'll be better for you. And I am going to shade this side of my nose and right down into this sphere, just like I was showing you up here. I'm going to add that shading, and I'm going to shade this sphere and this sphere. I can go ahead and eliminate these lines here. I don't need those anymore. This is sort of stage one. By the time we're done, it's going to look just like a nose. I'm going to go ahead and throw in that line for the bottom of the nose. We've got a nostril up in here, and it comes down this way. So it still looks a little fake. I mean, we started with circles. I think what will really help is to add some cast shadows. Right now we've just shaded those circles and spheres, but just like this sphere here, watch as I add some additional shading to this, a little cast shadow. And I'll do that around here as well. And even a little bit on this side. Adding the shadows around there. Well, here's what I want you to write down is this. Darks, when you add these darks, these shadows, they recede or they go back. You can write either way. They recede, they go back. Darks will make things look like they go back. And light areas will come forward. So right now mine's a little sketchy, but I want to I'll give you one more minute to catch up, and then I want to show you a really cool trick. All right, no matter what you have, stop what you're doing and check this out. This is typically a no-no. You don't want to shade with your fingers and get oils and dirt and salt all over everything, but I just want to show you this. I'm going to smooth this out. And watch what happens when I use my eraser and I make things pop forward, because light areas will come forward. Watch this. I'm going to use my eraser to make this pop forward. I can do it over on the nostrils a little bit as well. And I don't want it to be real high contrast. I don't want an abrupt change there. So if you have I'll get out some blending stumps too. But hopefully you can see that adding light areas will really make it pop forward. And similarly, watch as I add some more darks in here, and these darks will push things back. And that's how you get your nose to pop off your face, to make it look like it's, you know, protruding from your face. The darks will make things go back in space. The light areas will come forward. And it's starting to look like a realistic nose. I'm getting there. So give yours a bit more attention, then I want to show you a couple more tricks to take this to the next level. And again, we're going about 75% here. I mean, to really make a good nose, you want to really look at your nose. There's a lot of little things going on in there that give it character. You might have some freckles or some little bumps or little areas where the light hits it that make it pop out. One strange thing that happens is often you get light that bounces off of your upper lip onto your nose. It just happens. It's called a reflected highlight. And right here, just above this line, you often get a little bit of a glare. So if you've got a good eraser and you can kind of pull that back out, that's actually something that will really sell the realism of your nose. You can sort of see it here. This artist has thought about that as well. But that shading is important because it is near the bottom of your nose. So I usually shade a little heavier just above that line so that it's dark, meeting that light. You just want a thin little bit of light there. What I'm doing is just barely shading, just a real soft touch here. So we don't want any quick changes in value, not too quick. We're trying to avoid lines. When you have lines, try to polish them away and just make them smooth transitions around the nostrils and nose. And there's one more thing we could add, and that's that philtrum. Which, if we want to push it back, usually it's a little bit of a divot right here, we make it darker. But if we want the areas to the left and right of it to come forward, then we make those a little bit lighter. So again, we're using that idea of darks going back and lights coming forward. That's a little too much, but hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about. And that philtrum takes you right to what we call the Cupid's bow, which is your upper lip. They call it the Cupid's bow. I think you can see why. It actually looks like a bow. But we'll get into mouths on Thursday. So that is sort of noses 101. What I'd like you to do, and I would definitely try some from, say, a 3/4 view, where you're seeing a bit more of one nostril and less of another. You know, try to see about shading one of those in. Let's make that a little bit better. See how it looks from the side and how the shading changes. But what I'd like to see is 5 total noses for 50 points. Now you've already done one, so just 4 more. I want to see 1 in color. So see what you can do with those colored pencils. And if you can, if you have room, from yesterday, you might have a pair of eyes that are about 1 eye's width apart. See if you can add a nose to those, what we call a T-junction. So if you can, try to find out where that nose lives. And by the way, your nose is about as wide as 1 eye. This is about 1 eye's width. So if you're not sure what size to make it, you know, about 1 eye's width. And it's about 1 eye's width from the eye down to the wings. So I'm going to put on some nose music. Put a couple more up here. Let's zoom out here. And these are tricky, so I'm going to come around and try to help you as well. If you can't find your nose shape, if you can't really see it, I'll try to help you out, get you a head start.